What's up guys, my name is Brock, you're watching The Modest Man, and today I want to talk about what to look for when you're buying a watch. Alright, when it comes to buying watches, there are so many options to choose from. Different types, different brands, different models, different prices, and oftentimes people end up paying for the brand name or the designer label, but not the actual inherent value of the product itself. Now this is especially true with watches because it seems like new brands are popping up every day. And many brands that make so-called fashion watches are guilty of skimping on materials and craftsmanship and relying on the power of their brand's name alone. Simply put, this means they're selling cheap watches for way more than they're worth. So today I want to show you what to look for in a watch, and hopefully this will help you buy a watch that is valuable, that's worth its money, and that isn't just marked up because of, its brand name. Okay, first a quick disclaimer. Here's what this video is not. This video is not a sales pitch. Okay, I'm gonna show you two watches to compare the differences between, a cheaply made watch and a well-made watch. But I'm not trying to sell you on either of these watches. Buying a watch is pretty subjective. It depends what you want. And these watches might not be for you. Like for example, they're both quartz watches. So if you want an automatic, then neither of these is a good choice for you. So even though I do prefer one of these watches to the other, this is in no way a sales pitch. You should buy a watch that you love. Okay, and that brings me to my second disclaimer. This video is also not a debate between the merits of a quartz watch and a mechanical watch. If you prefer mechanical watches, that's totally fine, and I understand that. But either way, the stuff that I'm gonna talk about today applies to any watch that you're buying. Mechanical, quartz, automatic, hand wound, pocket watches, it doesn't matter. The stuff that I'm talking about, these quality indicators are important to look for when you're buying any type of watch. And finally, I do want to thank Linear for being a longtime supporter and partner of The Modest Man. I've been carrying around their portfolio case for a few years now. I've been wearing their minimalist watch for a few months, and for what it's worth, I think it is a way better watch than a lot of the fashion watches out there like the Daniel Wellington that I'm gonna compare it to. In my opinion, Linear is a brand that really cares about design, but they also care about high quality materials and craftsmanship. So while I'm not gonna tell you that their watches are the best watches in the world, I will tell you that for what it's worth, in my opinion, they're way better than Daniel Wellington. All right, let's get into the comparison. So we're gonna look at the Linear Minimalist 38mm and the Daniel Wellington Sheffield, which is a 40mm. Both of these watches are made in China. The Sheffield retails for $229 on Daniel Wellington's website, and the Minimalist goes for $249 on Linear's site. So we're gonna talk about the following components which are important to look for no matter what watch you're buying, any watch, mechanical or quartz. The glass, the case, the movement, and the leather. For each of these components, you want to consider how valuable it is. How much did this piece cost to buy? How much did these brands pay for their leather straps that they're using on their watches? Are they looking for the best quality stuff they can find? Are they looking for the cheapest stuff they can find? Were their watches expensive to produce, or did they cut corners? So with that in mind, let's start with the glass. Like most fashion watches, the Daniel Wellington is made with flat mineral glass. It will be somewhat scratch resistant compared to plastic, but not as scratch resistant as sapphire crystal. One important note, it is more shatterproof, so if you drop it, chances are it's not gonna break when compared to sapphire crystal. Now, the Linear watch has domed sapphire crystal. Now, this is about 3 times more scratch resistant than mineral glass. The dome shape is purely aesthetic. I like it, I think it's kind of elegant, it kind of sets it apart from other watches, but it's really just purely aesthetic. It doesn't help with the scratch resistance or anything like that. Sapphire crystal is very hard to scratch. So, if you don't like to baby your watches, you accidentally bang it against a door frame or something, it's gonna be just fine. The Linear crystal is also treated with an anti-reflective coating, which again is just a little thing, that costs a little bit of money to do, and it really helps cut down on glare from the sun or overhead lights. So just another little thing that you can look for when you're buying a watch. Okay, let's move on to the case and the hardware. Again, we're focused on how it looks, but also how valuable it is inherently. So both watches have stainless steel cases and hardware. So I can't find any details about the steel used in the Daniel Wellington Sheffield watch, so I can't really comment on its quality. It is a polished, shiny finish. The Linear watches are made from 316L stainless steel, which is just a specific type of stainless steel. It's marine grade steel with anti-corrosive and heat-resistant properties when compared to other types of steel. It's also brushed, which is why it has that kind of matte finish. And this is really up to personal preference, but I prefer the brush finish. I think is a little less dressy, a little more modern, a little more subtle than the polished finish. And on a practical note, it doesn't smudge or show fingerprints quite as easily. Okay, next up, we gotta talk about the movement. So that's the internal mechanism that actually makes the watch tick. Both of these watches are quartz watches, which means that they're battery powered, but of course not all quartz movements are created equal. The Sheffield runs on a Japanese quartz movement. From what I can tell, this movement is made by Miyota, which is owned by Citizen, which is the giant watchmaker out of Japan. This is a perfectly accurate, respectable movement. It's not too expensive. This can probably be bought for anywhere from like $1 to $2 per unit. Although, I'm not sure about that. That's just based on what I could find on the internet. The Minimalist runs on the Ronda 5 series movement. This is a Swiss company, which is why this watch boasts a Swiss movement. It's a 3-hand date movement that might cost around $10 per unit. So, it's in the neighborhood of around 5 times more expensive than the Japanese quartz movement used in the Sheffield. But of course, it is still a quartz movement. It's still relatively affordable compared to a mechanical movement. So just because it's Swiss, does that mean it works better? No, I mean, both of these watches are probably gonna keep extremely accurate time. They're gonna run for years before you need to replace the battery. The big difference is the perceived value of a Swiss movement versus a Japanese or Chinese movement. The Ronda 5 series movement is a very well-known, very respectable movement. It's more expensive to buy, and for that reason, it's generally more desirable than the Japanese movement. Okay, and finally, we have to talk about the leather. And this is where the difference between this linear minimalist watch and the Daniel Wellington Sheffield really comes out. So just like with the glass, you can see that Daniel Wellington is really pinching pennies when it comes to materials, while Linear is ponying up for the good stuff. So at first glance, you might think that both of these watches have Italian leather straps, but these leathers couldn't be more different. The strap of the Sheffield is made from genuine leather, and the term genuine leather has to be one of the most misleading terms in the fashion world. It sounds good, but it's actually anything but. Genuine leather, at best, is made from the lowest quality part of the hide. So if you think about a hide, an animal skin, the genuine leather is the part of the hide that's closest to the flesh of the animal, and it's the worst kind of leather. Now, even worse, some genuine leather is really just bonded or pressed leather that's made from bits and pieces or scraps of other leather. Genuine leather might look okay out of the box, but it doesn't look as good or feel as good as higher quality leather. And the big difference is it's not gonna age nearly as well. So genuine leather is gonna, scuff up and get scratched and gonna crack and tear, and it's just gonna age horribly and get uglier and uglier the more you wear it. There's really no reason for anybody to use genuine leather in a watch unless they're trying to save money. That's the only reason you would choose genuine leather for a watch strap. Now, the strap on the Minimalist, on the other hand, is full grain, vegetable tanned Italian leather. And this is from an Italian tannery whose name I won't attempt to pronounce. But Linear is, they're a leather company first. That's how they started. They started making leather goods. So they really care about the quality of leather, and that's why they're using the best stuff. And full grain leather is the best part of the hide. Vegetable tan leather is a natural, age-old tanning process. Doesn't use nearly as many chemicals as genuine leather, and it will age beautifully. It'll feel and look better right out of the box, but it's also gonna age really nicely and develop that nice patina over time. So the more you wear it, the better it's gonna look. All right, so let's recap real quick. When you're buying a watch, any type of watch, here's what you wanna look out for. The glass. In general, sapphire crystal is more desirable than mineral glass. The case. What kind of steel is it made out of? Is it brushed or polished, which is really just a personal preference? The movement. How valuable, how expensive is the actual movement, the internal mechanism that drives this watch? And of course, the leather. Is it cheap, genuine leather, or is it high quality, full grain, or at least top grain leather? So those are the facts. Now, if you want my opinion is that Daniel Wellington watches are cheap, overpriced for what you're getting, and to be honest, I think they're kind of ugly. I don't like the backwards D, I don't like the Times New Roman font. So if it were up to me and I'm buying a minimalist quartz watch in that price range, it's a no-brainer. I would never buy the Daniel Wellington Sheffield over the Linear Minimalist 38mm. But like I said, I'm not trying to sell you this watch, I'm just telling you what to look out for when you're buying any type of watch, no matter what your budget, no matter what your preference for what type of movement or what type of strap or whatever. These are just things that you should look out for when you're buying a watch to make sure that you're buying something that's inherently valuable, that's well made from high quality materials, not some cheap watch where you're paying for just the brand and the logo. All right guys, if you have any questions about any of this stuff, have any opinions of your own, leave a comment down below, and until next time, stay stylish.